Okay, so I want to start this deep dive with a bit of a vibe check.
Vibe check.
Yeah, but I don't mean the usual, how are you doing, or did you have a good week kind of thing. I'm asking something way more specific.
Okay, I'm listening.
I want to know if there's a hum in the background for you today.
A hum, like an actual noise.
No, not a noise, more like a tension, a frequency. Maybe you woke up this morning and, I don't know, your coffee cup felt heavier than usual. Or the light hitting your floor just looked wrong. You know that feeling? Like a sweater that shrank in the wash and it just doesn't fit your body the way it did yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
You put it on and you're pulling at the sleeves and everything is just tight.
That is a weirdly specific sensation, but looking at the stack of research we have in front of us, if you are feeling that, you are definitely not imagining it.
Good.
And you're not alone.
Good. Because today is Sunday, February 15th, 2026. And if you are feeling slightly off-center, or maybe like the static electricity in the air is turned up way too high, we have the explanation.
We do. We're looking at a fascinating stack of sources today from Tarot by High C.
It's a really great pairing this week. We've got the technical astrology of the day for the 15th.
Right, the nuts and bolts.
But we're layering that over a narrative companion piece, a StoryScope, titled When the World Tilted.
And that's really the mission for this deep dive, isn't it?
It is, because usually, let's be honest, astrology gets talked about in these really vague Barnum statement ways.
Oh, yeah. You might feel a change.
Thanks, so helpful. But today, we're going to take some pretty heavy geometry, specifically a sun square Uranus, and map it onto a story about a guy named Elio to see how it actually plays out.
Right, because the danger with these kinds of transits, especially the really volatile ones, is that you read expect disruption and you immediately panic.
Great, my car's going to break down, or I'm going to get fired.
Or I need to quit my job right now and move to a yurt.
Exactly, that impulse to just run. But the goal today is to distinguish between impulsive rebellion, which is, burning the house down because you hate the wallpaper.
Right.
And what our sources are calling intentional realignment.
Intentional realignment. I like that. It sounds a lot safer than burning the house down.
It does.
Yeah.
So let's get into the mechanics first. What is the weather report? Why does this Sunday feel like a glitch in the matrix?
So the foundation of the day, the emotional backdrop, let's call it, is the moon in Aquarius.
Okay.
And normally, if you know a bit about astrology, Aquarius is the cool customer of the zodiac. It's detached, intellectual, focused on community.
The source mentions building kinder bonds and upgrades. It's very utopian, very Star Trek.
It is, usually. It's about looking at the system and saying, hey, we can do this better, we can be more efficient. But, and this is the big variable for today, the source flags a specific aspect from this morning. The moon was conjunct Pluto.
Pluto, the planet of let's drag everything from the basement and put it on the front lawn.
Pretty much. Pluto is the deep dredge. It deals with the subconscious, with power dynamics, hidden truths. So when you mix that cool, detached Aquarius moon with the intense, obsessive energy of Pluto,
you don't get a polite system upgrade.
you get a system purge.
Okay, so that explains the moodiness. The source mentioned feelings might burst out in unpleasant ways. Just what you want on a Sunday morning.
Well, it's uncomfortable, for sure,
Right.
but it's necessary. The text says it makes things clear that weren't clear before. It's not just drama for drama's sake. It's about revealing structural flaws.
Oh,
But that's just the background noise. The real main event, the reason we're all feeling this tension, is the sun square Uranus.
Sun square Uranus. Even if you don't know astrology, square sounds rigid. It sounds hard.
It is. In astrology, a square is a 90-degree angle. It represents friction, conflict, a turning point.
Yeah.
And you have to look at the players involved. On one corner, you have the sun.
The ego, the self, the me.
Right. Your steady sense of identity, the part of you that wants to be consistent. And in the other corner, you've got Uranus.
The wild card.
The electric shock. Uranus is the planet of liberation, sudden change, rebellion.
So my desire to be a steady, consistent person is in a cage match with a need for sudden, chaotic freedom.
Essentially, yes. The source describes it as a friction between your freedom of choice and your material or emotional security. It shows up as disruption.
Which is why we started with that vibe check.
Exactly. This energy feels like a need to break free from something that has just become too constrained.
It's interesting you use that word constrained, because the source makes a point that this isn't just mental, it's somatic. It actually shows up in the body.
That is such a crucial insight. We often think of wanting change as this purely intellectual thing. I think I'd like a new career path.
Right, a thought.
But under this transit, the body knows way before the brain does. The source lists symptoms, tension in the jaw, unexplainable fatigue, or, and I find this one really compelling, bursts of clarity.
That stood out to me too. Bursts of clarity sounds positive, like a light bulb moment. But in this context, it's described almost like a migraine.
Yes.
Like a flashbulb going off in your face when you aren't ready for it.
Because it's disruptive. It's the body refusing to keep operating at a level that no longer matches your internal truth. Your nervous system is basically saying, nope, I am not doing this anymore, while your brain is still trying to, write the grocery list.
So the expert advice here is, what? Take a nap. Scream into a pillow.
Well, the source actually warns that this intensity makes a fresh, wide view hard to handle. If you're rigid, if you try to suppress that shaking in your hands, you snap. The strategy is flexibility. You have to be willing to adjust your stance without losing your footing completely.
Which brings us to the StoryScope.
Yeah.
Because be flexible is so easy to say, but so hard to do when your life feels like it's short-circuiting.
Right, and this is why I love that they included a narrative component. We move from the abstract Sun square Uranus to a specific guy on this specific day.
Enter Elio.
Enter Elio.
I really resonated with Elio. I think we have all been Elio at some point, so let's set the scene. It's the morning of February 15th. Elio wakes up, and he immediately feels wrong.
It's a textbook somatic response. The story says the morning arrived, already humming, as if the air itself had been wound too tightly.
He feels it in his shoulders, pressure behind the eyes, and there's this great description. The sense that something was leaning forward inside him, impatient, waiting for a signal that never quite came.
That is such a perfect articulation of Uranus energy. It's potential energy. It's that feeling of being at the very top of a roller coaster, but the drop never happens. You're just holding.
And look at how he sees the city. He looks out the window, the pavement is clean, traffic is obeying the laws, everything is objectively fine.
But to him,
it feels subtly misaligned.
he compares it to a painting hung a few degrees off center.
Which is maddening. If you've ever had a picture frame that is just slightly crooked, you know you can't look at anything else in the room.
It's like you're gaslighting yourself, in a way. You look at your life, your job, your relationship, your house, and on paper, it's perfect. But your internal spirit level is just screaming that the whole thing is crooked.
So what does Elio do? Does he lean into the chaos?
No.
No.
Right.
He does what any of us would do. He tries to fix it with a routine.
The coffee ritual.
The coffee ritual.
Yes.
Same cup, same chair, watching the same neighbor water the same plants.
Yeah.
He's desperately trying to ground himself in the known.
But under Sun-Uranus square, the known is exactly what's causing the pain. The safety mechanism is actually the trap.
Exactly. The text says the ritual felt strangely loud, and then he mutters this line. I circled this 3 times. He says, I can't keep pretending this fits.
That's the Moon-Pluto contact right there. That is the truth bursting out. He's been pretending the routine fits probably for years, but the tension has finally hit a breaking point.
And then
the universe steps in to help him out.
help is a strong word. I think intervene might be better.
Well, from a developmental perspective, he goes to work. Poor guy's working on a Sunday, or maybe the narrative bleeds into Monday here.
Right.
But he's at his desk, and a system error freezes his entire project.
The blue screen of death. The spinning wheel of doom.
The structure just pauses. Deadlines evaporate. Meetings are canceled. The whole machine just stops.
And this is the pivot point. Because everyone around him loses their minds. They are panicking, slamming keys, trying to force the machine back into motion. They are terrified of the silence.
But Elio
feels relief.
thin, electric, and unsettling, but relief.
That is such a massive tell. I always say, if a disaster happens, a canceled flight, a power outage, and your very first micro-reaction is, thank God, you need to examine your life.
Oh, absolutely. If the only way you can get a break is if the entire power grid fails, your baseline stress is way too high.
For sure. That sudden stillness allowed Elio to see how long he had been editing himself to match expectations.
And he realizes his life had become efficient, but it no longer felt alive.
Efficient, but not alive.
Mm-hmm.
We optimize our lives to death, don't we? We act like if we can just squeeze 5 more minutes of productivity out of the day, we'll finally be happy.
We do. We mistake lack of friction for happiness. We think if everything is smooth, it must be good. But smooth can also just be hollow.
So Elio has this realization, and the source calls this the pivot point, he thinks. This isn't collapse. This is a hinge.
This is a hinge. That is the key insight of this entire deep dive.
Break that down for me. What is the difference between a collapse and a hinge? Because in the moment, they can both feel like things are falling apart.
A collapse is an ending. It's a pile of rubble. It's destruction without a purpose. A hinge is a mechanism that allows you to swing in a new direction.
It's structural.
It's structural, but it's dynamic. It implies that the structure you build isn't a prison. It's actually a door.
And this connects right back to that Sun square Uranus tension we talked about. The difference between impulsive rebellion and intentional realignment.
Precisely. Impulsive rebellion would be Elio flipping his desk, screaming at his boss, setting the building on fire, and moving to a tropical island.
Which, let's be honest, is the fantasy when you're that stressed. We all have that Jerry Maguire scene playing in our heads.
Oh, absolutely. That's the Uranus urge to just sever. But that's a reaction. It's just doing the opposite of what you were doing before, which means you're still being controlled by the thing you hate.
So what Elio does is a response.
It's a response. He realizes the disruption isn't the end of the world, it's an opening.
So he doesn't flip the desk. He just
Leaves.
He leaves early. He just walks out into the city. But he's not storming off in a huff. He's entering a state of observation. The source says he lets the city rearrange itself around him.
I loved the imagery here. Before, the city looked misaligned. Now he starts noticing the curves in the street. He sees a construction site, usually an eyesore.
Right.
But he notices an old mural that's been revealed behind the scaffolding.
Okay.
That's some heavy symbolism right there. The scaffolding, the structure, the routine, the efficiency gets peeled back, and the vivid truth is just sitting there underneath. That's Pluto again.
It's like when you take a different route home from work and realize you've been living next to this amazing park you never even saw because you were always just staring at your GPS.
Exactly. The efficiency was blinding him. The disruption gave him his sight back.
But the world doesn't just let him go, right? His phone starts buzzing.
Of course. The source calls it a gentle pressure to return to the shape he had always occupied.
Return to your shape. It's such a haunting phrase. It sounds almost sci-fi.
Well, it's how systems work. They want homeostasis. Your friends, your boss, even your own habits, they want you to fit back into the box you were in yesterday. Not because they're evil, but because it's predictable.
And predictability is safe.
But Elio doesn't reply. He lets by the river. And he acknowledges that standing on this moving ground is uncomfortable. He's not magically cured of anxiety.
Right. The source says the discomfort was real, so was the freedom.
And that's the trade-off. You can have comfort or you can have freedom. Usually you can't have both at the exact same time, not during a transit like this.
And then he lands on the final lesson. Maybe the problem isn't that things are changing. Maybe it's that I stayed still for too long.
Boom. That's it. We often view chaos as this external enemy that's attacking us. Why is this happening to me?
Right.
But often, chaos is just the universe trying to catch you up to who you've already become.
The unrest wasn't an enemy. It was information.
It was data, high-fidelity data. His body spoke first, the shoulders, then his circumstances spoke, the computer crash, and finally his attention caught up.
So if we synthesize these two sources, the technical astrology and this story, what's the roadmap for our listener? Because chances are they aren't having a dramatic construction site mural moment right now.
They're just annoyed.
They're just dealing with a bad Sunday.
The roadmap is about that conscious response. The astrology asks for alignment over comfort. And Elio demonstrates that by realizing that nothing external demanded he become someone new, it was internal. The text says something internal had withdrawn its consent to remain the same.
Withdrawn its consent. I love that phrasing. It implies agency.
Yes, it means you aren't a victim of the Sun square Uranus. You are a participant. You are the one initiating the change, even if you don't consciously realize it yet.
And the most important part, he didn't burn it all down. The source is so clear about this. Not rebellion, realignment, not escape, evolution.
He didn't have to destroy his life to fix it. He just had to stop forcing it to fit a shape that was too small. He allowed the future to stay unformed, just for a moment.
He allowed his life to loosen just enough to breathe again.
Think about how tight we hold things. We grip our identities, our schedules, our 5-year plans, and we think that grip is what holds us together.
Right.
But under this astrology, that grip is what causes the fracture. If you're rigid, you break. If you're flexible, you turn. You use the hinge.
It reminds me of those earthquake-proof buildings. They aren't built to be immovable. They're built to sway.
Exactly. The swaying is what saves them.
So practical application time.
Yep.
It's February 15th. It's a Sunday. What do we actually do with this info?
Well, first, stop trying to fix the glitch immediately.
Right. If the internet goes down or your plans fall through,
Yeah.
maybe don't rush to fill the silence.
Exactly. If you feel like the world has tilted, don't try to force it back. Learn how to stand differently and check for the hollow parts in your life.
A hollow parts.
The things you do just because you've always done them. The coffee ritual that tastes like nothing. The conversation you have on autopilot. The job task you do that brings zero value. Identify where the energy has left the building.
And be brave enough to acknowledge that the discomfort is information. It's not a system error, it's a feature.
It's the upgrade loading.
But upgrades take time to install.
Yeah.
And usually during the installation, nothing works.
That's the part we hate. We want the shiny new upgrade, but we don't want the downtime. But today, specifically today, the downtime is the whole point.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a final thought to chew on. We've talked a lot about Elio finding that hinge.
We have.
And usually our instinct is to stabilize the ground, to pour concrete,
Yeah.
to make sure nothing moves ever again.
Get back to normal.
Right. So here's the provocation. If you feel the ground moving beneath you today, instead of rushing to stabilize it, instead of answering those emails or fixing the schedule, what would happen if you just paused?
What would happen if you didn't assume the interruption was a mistake? What if you just waited to see where that new hinge is actually pointing?
You might find, like Elio, that the view is a lot better from the new angle.
The colors might be a lot more vivid.
Stay flexible out there, everyone.
And listen to the hum.